everyone, welcome back to Poppin' In with Alexa and Molly. I'm Alexa.
I'm Molly.
And this week we are going to be ramping up for the Oscars. We've been doing some prep work, some leg work, cardio, all of that. Lifting some Oscars. You can't see me, but I'm like lifting weight, both of us.
The SAG Awards was last night, and one thing that like I could tell everybody kept focusing on when they won was like how heavy the statue was.
Yes.
Because Kieran Culkin like set his statue down like just on a table next to him and was like, I'm not holding that for 3 minutes or whatever it was.
That makes sense. It's just like, well, I wonder how like heavy the Grammys are, because Chappell Roan had to set hers down. And we should say, if you're noticing a difference in audio this week, it's because we're separated, because Molly is sick.
I'm sick.
Boo, you whore.
Very tragic. I miss you.
I know I had so much stuff to like talk about and tell you, and I mean outside of this that none of the listeners will care about, but that we would care about. And I made the chicken burrito casserole. I was like, this is very Molly coded.
Aww. I bet you had sour cream on it.
Yeah, of course. Any other way is unacceptable.
Yeah.
But anyways, we wanted to start out with two things at the beginning of the episode. One, as always, we put our timestamps in the episode description. So if we're talking about a movie, a TV show, pop culture event, things you don't care about or don't want spoiled, look at the episode description and you can skip forward to the next topic or the topic that you're interested in. And the second thing is we have a big announcement. Announcing the Poppies! Woo!
We didn't say it on time because we're lagged.
Oh, boo.
Oh well.
Well, it's gonna be our first annual Oscars/Poppies. So we have created our own fun little categories for the movies, and we're gonna put it on our Instagram. Follow us at Poppin' In Podcast, where you can vote on different movies and categories for what we've created. We have best homoerotic undertones is one category.
Best serious long stare.
Yeah, that's a good one. And many more. I think there's about 10 categories. And we'll announce the winners on the next episode, which will also be our year anniversary.
That's next week?
Yeah, because our first episode was the Oscars last year. Here we are again. And
to this day, the Oscars episode is probably like my favorite. It's the one that made me laugh the hardest.
Wow, it's been a year and no episodes topped it. You're just like, nope.
There's been close ones, but like there's something that I say in it that makes me laugh. Like it's really rare when I make myself laugh because I don't think I'm like that funny. But I still really laugh hard at a joke in there.
This will make you happy that Chris was like quoting Shakira the other day and like laughing to himself.
Like quoting my impression?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm glad he got a kick out of that. That's not one of my funnier moments.
Personally, I think he just thought you did a really good impression.
Personally, I think my Nosferatu impression is way funnier.
I think it's because it just was in the middle of a sentence, like, unexpected, and he was just listening to it as I was editing on the couch, and he was just like, what? I meant to tell you that the other day. But,
I love that.
Anyways, so yeah, we have been, because it's been snowing, Chris has had the flu, so I've just been, like, trapped in this house just watching. I have been on an Oscars just bulldoze, as have you.
Yeah, and I think for the most part we watched the same ones that are like out now. Because honestly, I think we can say we've watched almost all of the Oscars movies except
The Brutalist.
For me, it's except 2, and for you, I think it's except 1.
Wait, have you seen The Brutalist?
No, and The Brutalist. Okay, except 3.
Yeah, it's The Brutalist, and then that foreign film, I'm Still Here.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Nickel Boys, but you did see Nickel Boys.
Yes.
The problem is Nickel Boys is streaming for like $20,
yes.
And I just kind of would like it to go down a little bit.
Yeah, we forked up some dough for it because we had nothing else to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, also we wanted to watch it, but it was just kind of like, okay, the Oscars are next week. It's actually been really like stressful kind of trying to get all of the Oscar stuff under the wire because I want to be really well informed.
I do too. And it's a mix of like big blockbuster movies that were in the theaters and then ones that are like just nowhere to be found that played in
Right.
like 6 theaters across the country.
Exactly. And I've just been doing a lot of research because if you guys don't know, if you haven't been here from day one, we do a competition where we vote on what we think are going to win the Oscars. It's us and friend of the pod, Megan and Chris. And then the winners get a prize. And I have a special prize that you guys will find out about next week, including Molly. But I want to win. Molly
Can you
won
give us
last year.
I won last year. If I don't win this year, like I'm telling you, like I said, I might stand up and walk out of the door.
Okay, it is supposed to be like fun and friendship, but okay,
Yes.
that's
But as I said, it's fun if I win.
and
I'll have
also
fun if I win.
if you did, that's fine because then the night would be over. It'd be after the
Can you give us
Oscars.
a hint to what the special surprise is? I'm so curious.
Think about something we talked about with weight.
With weight?
Yeah,
WEIGHT?
sure.
What?
Think about
Oh, a statue.
it. Okay, well, don't tell the others. Chris doesn't even know.
Sorry. Okay.
It's okay. It's like a little I actually don't know how big it is. It's not an exact replica of an Oscar statue because I guess they don't sell those for obvious reasons. But and it has a little engraving on it.
Oh my
And I figure we
gosh.
could do it like whoever wins this year has to bring it back next year.
That's so cute. It's like the
Thanks.
belt. Shout out speed quizzing.
Yes, which is in our in our guest bedroom.
You took it home?
Well, it's the one we won it for like the trivia league, so it's the one you got to
Oh.
keep. Yeah. But
Oh,
anyways,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So back to the Oscars. So the first movie that I think both of us watched, I was gonna say together, but separately together.
Yeah.
Anora.
Yeah. I
Okay,
just love how excitedly you said that.
I loved this movie, and I knew I was going to. Like, as soon as I saw the trailer, before the Oscars hype came out, before everything, I was like, this is a movie I'm gonna see and I'm gonna love.
Yeah. And I was excited for it. I know like you know when you see a movie and you're kind of or you see like a preview for a movie and you're just like, I'm gonna like that. Like I can tell it's gonna be a good watch.
Yeah. You said you didn't want to see it at first. I remember us standing in the Regal Newtown 12.
I know. I remember where we were when I said that too. And I actually,
That was
what
so
I meant
sad.
by that was like, I didn't know if I wanted to see it in the movies. Like, it wasn't like a top priority for me.
Oh. Well, it was hard
You
to
know
see.
what I mean?
I feel like all of the Oscars movies this year, pretty much, like, I would say most of the Best Picture nominees were not ones like actively in theaters for a while.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
It really pisses
With the
me off.
exception of like Wicked, which was in the theaters for like 6 months.
In Dune 2.
Yeah.
Here we worm again.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Anora. So for those who don't know, Anora stars Mikey Madison.
Yes.
Who is amazing.
Yes.
And she plays like a woman from Brooklyn who works at a strip club. She's a stripper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a modern day Cinderella story, like a little with a little twist, but she basically meets while she's at the strip club because she speaks Russian.
Mm-hmm.
They actually filmed the movie in a Russian section of Brooklyn, I believe.
Oh, I thought you were about to say like in Russia. I was like, whoa.
No, there's like neighborhood, like there's like
that makes sense.
But yeah, and so she doesn't speak Russian, but she like understands it, and so they have her talk to this like he's the son of an Russian oligarch, and basically they meet and like kind of fall in love because he just hires her, but then like keeps her coming back and stuff, and it's just like this whirlwind of a romance.
Mm-hmm.
He's like 2020
He's
and she's
21 and she's 23. Also, she does speak Russian, but she says she doesn't like to. So she's like, you can speak it, I'll understand you. But she speaks like Russian, and I think it has something to do with her grandma that they highlight in the movie. But it's interesting because so it's a whirlwind romance, and it's interesting because it's very clear, like I feel like this movie really plays on like issues with class and immigration and also just like the folly of youth a little bit.
Yeah. And I was like I watched it with my mom and we were both saying how like we were kind of worried for a second that it was going to come out because he looked really young, like the kid that played or the guy that played the son.
Yeah.
And we were like, is he like we thought it was gonna be like he was under 18 or something, like that was gonna be some twist because he like looked really young, and he's just like he's just goofy, he's just
Yeah.
like he's very unserious.
So the guy who plays him, his name is Mark Eidelstein, I think. And he plays the character, it's Ivan or Vanya in Russian. And it's so interesting that you say that because one moment that really sticks out, like he has this very childish, boyish thing about him. And it's
Yeah.
the first time she comes over to like have sex with him, like paid for sex. And she's like, well, like, do you want to get started? And he's like, with what? And she was like, sex. And he's like, oh, sure. And he literally does like a little kid backflip onto the bed,
Yeah,
like a
that
roll.
was so
And
funny.
I think it's just like, he's 21 and like, I'm here to argue most 21-year-old guys are like very immature, but he is like, he seems like he's maybe 16.
Yeah, he looked younger than that.
And I'm surprised like more people aren't really playing up his acting. Like he did a really good job.
He was really like I felt like he was very natural. Like I
Mhm.
because the thing about the script, I don't know how it was, but it felt like it was not like a script.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder how that script looked, if it was just a lot of them just kind of improvising because it felt really natural.
Yeah.
But basically, and so once like they end up falling in love,
Sort of.
and yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, very quickly, and they're in Vegas, and they end up deciding, these are spoilers, by the way, if you haven't seen this movie, but they decide to get married, and then the parents find out, like, the parents of the kid, and they, like, fly to America and freak out and try to get
Yeah.
the marriage annulled.
Which
And it's very like honestly, I found because it's very funny, like there's
Mhm.
parts that are funny, but it's also kind of tragic because again, like you were saying, it's like sort of a conversation of class and like they're not taken seriously even though they're really screwing her over because they got married legally in Vegas and then they're trying to have it annulled just because the parents are like no this isn't happening,
Yeah.
but like he's an adult,
Yeah.
she's an adult, like there's no reason that they can't get married, and so
Yeah.
she gets screwed over and I feel really bad for her.
And it's interesting because everyone is so disrespectful to her. And the thing
Yeah,
is, she's like the most respectable person. Like, you see, like, her, and she's like, she's a sex worker. She, by all means, like, in our society would be deemed as like maybe not being respectable, which, is not what I agree with. But then you see this quote unquote respectable family, this Russian oligarch family, they have all of this money, and you see the way that they act, and it's just like, okay, I think she's better off as a person maybe than they are. But
yeah, well they're crazy, like the
yeah.
parents are crazy, the mom is super rude, the dad is just laughing the whole time.
Yeah, and the mom babies the son, like, when they finally come and they walk in and the son, like, hugs her around her waist and he's like, oh, is this from the new collection? She's like, yeah, it's from the new collection. Or whatever,
Yeah,
like, and it's so interesting, but I think it's, like, such a beautiful film because it's weirdly dark and yet very funny. Like, just the
yeah,
whole, like, there's a whole scene where they're trying to, like, wrangle Anora and she's fighting them and they can't get it. It's like these three
that was
grown
so
men.
crazy. That scene was crazy, and that was like it was so funny, but it was just like wild, it like stressed me out.
Yeah.
And because she's like really fighting them, and they're like
Yes.
literally like having to hold her down, and she's screaming. There's one scene where she's like screaming, like "Let me go," and
Yeah.
like it felt so real. Like I was just like, I the whole movie, I just found her performance to be really moving because again,
Yeah.
she was very funny, like she was funny, but also like you just like she evokes such like sympathy and empathy
Yeah.
from the viewers. It was just really
And
good.
she just seems like super smart. Like she seems like a smart
Mhm.
girl who just like kind of maybe made not a bad decision in marrying this guy, but like, she's 23. So
Yeah,
like she's not going to be making good decisions. And I think like
yeah,
I won't spoil it, but the last scene in the film I think is like, okay, she really killed it.
yeah. Yeah, the windshield wipers going like,
Yeah. It was
yeah,
it was great because I loved that character. I also love the way that they kind of portray sex workers where it almost feels like a normal day at work, She's like the way she's like
yeah,
talking to guys, she's like it's work. And I think it's because like so the director Sean Baker, he very much has like advocated for like rights of sex workers and I feel like he has like with this movie he's really trying to portray like yeah, they're just going to work, they clock in, and maybe their work is like erotic dancing, exotic dancing? I don't know.
Exotic
Thank
dancing,
you.
yeah.
Exotic dancing, that's erotic. But,
Yeah.
like they clock in, they clock out, and then they go and they do like whatever, It's and I think
And I
that's
think that's what
interesting.
contributed to why she married him so quickly, because she was like fat, like obviously taken in by the fact that he lived in a mansion, and like that
Yeah.
offered like, to go from a job where she's working at a strip club to now being married to the son of a
Yeah.
Russian oligarch. Like obviously you would take that, you know what I mean?
Who
Especially
wouldn't,
at 3. Yeah.
honestly?
So
And it's
I know,
just
like it I don't know. I also felt like Mikey Madison really did her research as far as like trying, like it just, like I said, it felt really natural.
yeah.
Her be like, I felt like she really studied up on what a person in that profession would
Oh, she was performing.
eat.
And it's also
Yeah. Oh
interesting,
yeah.
like, the childish aspect because it's like there's something kind of charming to him. Like, I don't think I would fall for him,
Mhm.
but if I were 23, you know how, like, sometimes you make excuses for guys where you're just like, well, whatever. Like, you can kind of see her doing that, where it's like, I'm sure he's different from all the other kind of like maybe gross old men that she usually has to deal with or whatever, where it's like even
Yeah.
there's a moment where they're having sex and he's just like jackrabbiting it and she has to stop and she's like, "Okay, what if we did it like slowly like this? Like it'll feel better." So, I think like maybe there's this thing where she felt this level of intimacy, and I'll be honest, I don't think he ever did. I think he's just a
No.
rich person who was just like, "This is my plaything."
Well, so half of the movie, I would say, because I would say the first half is a little bit better than the second half, in my opinion. Like the second half kind of dragged a
Oh,
little bit.
really?
Well, yeah, I mean, it felt kind of long, but
Oh,
like, I mean, I still think it was good. But so the second half is once, like we said, once the parents receive word that their son got married to this girl, they are coming to New York. They're coming to stop the marriage, and he just runs off
yeah. He literally
and he just leaves.
runs.
And so they spend, once they get in that huge fight in the house, they spend like, I would say, the second half of the movie basically trying to find him, and they're having to
Mhm.
go through all of like New York like
Yeah.
searching for this guy.
Yeah.
And so he just, yeah, he ran because he knows that his parents are gonna like, he's just
Yeah.
running away from his problems. He does not care about her. He's gone.
No, he says like, and this is a spoiler, but their parents finally come to pick him up, and she's like, "What about us?" And he was like, "You made my last week in America really fun, thanks." And she's
She's
like,
like, well, this is
"What?"
my marriage.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what did you think of the character of Igor?
I really loved his character a lot, because well, at first I was kind of like, I hope they end up together. But then
Yeah,
I thought
same.
he's still connected to that family. So I guess that probably wouldn't be a great idea unless he quit.
I could see him quitting for
But
her.
the whole time he was just like, you could tell he was just kind of disgusted by this family. And at one
Yeah.
point, like at the end, when they finally like decide on, annulling the marriage and it's a whole thing, he stands up for her and he's just like, I think, what's his name? Yvonne. I think Yvonne should apologize.
Mhm.
Should
And they say,
like, I
"We
think he
don't."
owes Anora. He's like, I think he owes Annie an apology, and
Mhm.
and of course they're just like, no, like he's not doing that.
Yeah.
But he really, I think he comes from kind of, probably it's like clear he comes from probably the same, well, class as her maybe, and
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
he like understands her, and I think he feels for her, and it was just really, like, at the end I was just like, I want them to end up together now.
Yeah. Which maybe they will. We don't know. They have like a interesting scene that
Yeah, the
is
movie ends
more.
very ambiguously,
Yeah.
but
And I will say there's a scene that really made me mad. So it's when, again, this is kind of a spoiler, but it's when like the family is there and they're getting on their private jet and Honora's like, "No, like F this. I didn't sign a prenup, so I'm entitled to half." And the
yeah.
mom turns around with like this smirk on her face. She's like, "Really?" She was like, "Go ahead and try that. Like we're going to take everything you have." And it's just like so
Yeah.
true where it's like you can't really go up against like these wealthy people even if they've done you wrong.
Yeah. Her car would be gone, her house would be gone, like,
And then
the amount of money she'd pay for a lawyer, like,
yeah, her
no.
mom in Florida would lose her house, her sister would lose her house. Like it and it would just and it just made me mad because it just the injustice of it all. Where it's just like, okay, just because you're this wealthy doesn't mean you should get away with things. But it's also like
Yeah.
I guess that's the everyday life we live in, isn't it?
Meanwhile, they show up to court. He literally can't even lift himself up. They're like, he's like falling asleep like on the table.
Yeah, because he's so
crazy.
wasted. And also, it's just like, I don't know that much about Russian oligarchs, but I'm like, how do they make their money and how do they sustain it? Because if that's who's taking over the business, God bless them.
I was confused at first. So when they first show him making the call, or when they first, God, I don't even know who he gets the call from, but when the one guy gets the phone call, I thought that was his father when he was in church.
Oh, I did too. Yeah.
I was confused by the...
But that's his, like, handler who's supposed to be watching him when he's in the States. What was his name? Something with an OS at the end.
I have no idea. I don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I loved it. I thought it was beautiful, too. Like, just the film in general is beautiful. I thought it was great.
It was a beautiful movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we can kind of transition to the next topic with this, but I personally, after seeing it, I think she should win Best Actress.
So I agree. I do think she is the hot ticket for Best Actress. I don't know who number 2 would be.
So I don't think she will. I think right now the hot ticket is Demi. To quote you, the hot ticket is Demi Moore,
the new thing on the block.
For the movie The Substance, which we also watched.
Yay! Wow, what a transition! Bravo! We've been doing this for a year now, and we're getting it down.
We are
down to a science.
So we both watched The Substance, which is basically a horror movie.
Yes.
Horror sci-fi, I would maybe say.
Yeah. I guess
body horror for sure.
So, like, the synopsis that I found that I think describes this pretty well is: a fading celebrity takes a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. So, as we said, Demi Moore is the star character. She plays...
Yeah, it's Demi.
What did I say?
It is Demi. You said Demi, but it's Demi Moore.
Okay. I believe you.
Like a long time ago to kind of let everybody know, she's like, by the way, it's Demi.
Okay, well, I guess that makes sense. Anyways, she plays...
it doesn't. You're correct, but it is Demi.
It's however I think it is. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
She plays Elizabeth Sparkle, who is like a kind of fading out, she's almost like a Jane Fonda type character where she has like workout videos and she's really famous, and she's basically aged out, and a disgusting Dennis Quaid, who plays the character Harvey, and he like runs the television company.
Made me lose my appetite. Like, he was so gross.
He was so gross. There's a scene where he's like eating shrimp, and it's just the sounds he's making are disgusting.
But they film him in like I think it's like the fishbowl.
It's almost like a half fishbowl. It's not. It doesn't feel full, but
yeah. And so it's like always, whenever they show him, it's always like very up close and kind of this like almost scary way.
Mm-hmm.
And his teeth are gross. Like everything about him and the way he speaks about women and he's just gross. So.
And I think like he's supposed to be representative of just like male energy in like television, Hollywood and just in general. So he basically is just like, yeah, like once you turn 50, like it's not there anymore. Like you're not there anymore. And she's like, what? And it's very clear it's like her whole life falls apart or not falls apart, but she has defined herself as this for so long, as this like name, this face, whatever, that it's like you go into her apartment, which it's even like there's so many like Stanley Kubrick references and David Lynch references.
It looks like The Shining to me a lot, like the whole movie.
But there's even like there's a scene where it's like you see Demi Moore's face reflected into a doorknob, and I'm like, that is exactly out of Twin Peaks. It is crazy. There's like a scene in Twin Peaks where a character like looks into a doorknob and then gets like sucked into it. But anyways, it's a whole thing. But I just like, I think it's like the movie, I was texting you about, I was like, I don't even know how to describe this, but I do think it was beautifully shot.
It was beautifully shot.
And it is supposed to be like not a very realistic portrayal of anyone's life at all, because...
Exaggerated.
Yeah, it's exaggerated.
But it was definitely a commentary on...
Yeah.
Women aging and the pressures of society.
I loved it, but I also thought there were certain things that it was interesting. Like I've known it's gotten a lot of like not flack, but kind of like controversial commentary where the way it just feels like a very like male gaze voyeur, but I guess that's how it's supposed to feel. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Um
So Margaret Qualley plays like her younger, better version of
yeah.
herself. I mean, she literally like that's why we say like body like she literally births her out of her back.
It's
It's really gross.
crazy.
Really gross. There were a lot, I will say, as somebody who's very squeamish and has a lot of issues with needles and needles like going into the skin, like I can't handle that. This was a really hard watch for me. Like it was just disgusting and disturbing on so many levels.
What really freaked me out is there's like a scene where it's like she pulls her teeth out, but she also
I
like
couldn't.
pulls her.
I literally couldn't.
Ever since I watched that scene in Lost where what's his face? He's like a torture guy or whatever, and he pulls people's fingernails off.
Yeah,
and they do that in 24 with Jack Bauer, and it really freaks me out.
It reminded me of Black Swan when she pulls her finger, her skin. I was like, I cannot watch that. I can't. It's like I was like, I can't watch this scene. It got, I would say the second, like the third act of the movie just gets
kind of crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. And so for some background, like what it is it's like while the younger, better version of yourself is out in the world, you're basically in a catatonic state and you have this IV for 7 days and you have this IV that like feeds you food. And they keep saying they're like, it's all about the balance. Like, remember, you're not two separate people, you are one person. So you have to switch every 7 days or else like whatever you take from the other is going like or whatever extra time you take is going to be taken from the other. And so
you can probably guess that the younger version wants to stay as her younger self longer. And so she starts taking, and thus lies.
Yes.
Thus chaos ensues.
Yes. And it's kind of crazy to me. She almost gets like mad at Demi Moore's character because she just keeps calling her like an old fat hag or something like that. And I'm just like, I mean, you literally, like Margaret Qualley's character as the other half that spawned from her back, I'm like, you can't live without this main source.
And what I don't understand, here's what was confusing to me about this movie, about the story, was like, it's still her conscience, isn't it?
I thought so at first too, but I guess not. I thought so at first because there was like a scene where it was like Margaret Qualley's character, like she imagined stuff falling out of her back, and then Demi Moore wakes up and she's like checking her back to see if stuff like fell out of it. So I'm like, oh, they share a consciousness, but then
I thought that from the moment that Margaret Qualley like woke up, because she's like freaking out, and I was like, okay, so she's not like a new person, she's still Demi Moore in her head, it's just a new body. So I was confused when all of a sudden it was like the two were rival. They become like they hate each other.
Yeah.
And it was just weird because I was like, aren't they the same? Like, wouldn't she remember why she made this decision?
But I don't think so, because then there's stuff later on, and maybe it's like more as they like separate from each other in terms of like not being one, where it's like even Margaret Qualley's like giving an interview and Demi Moore's watching it, and Demi Moore's like waiting to see what her answers are. So like I don't think she knows what's going on when she's not there. And it's just, I don't know. Which is, I feel like that wasn't very well explained, but I will say I do think like, so Margaret Qualley then auditions to be the new what's her name, something Sparkle, Elizabeth Sparkle, which is Demi Moore's character. Demi Moore
on her show, like she has, because Demi Moore's character Elizabeth Sparkles is famous for having this like, again, like Jane Fonda type, like having this like fitness show, and at the beginning it's kind of laid out that like Dennis Quaid's character is like, we need a younger we need someone younger and better and newer to come in and do this show.
And I will say she spices it up.
She does. And Margaret Qualley decides, or sorry, Demi Moore like decides like, okay, as my younger self, I'm gonna go audition for this new version or whatever, and she gets it. So it's like because of course she's the younger version of herself, so she like.
And I will say it is like not a workout video that I think you would actually get a workout out of. Like it's just a lot of hip thrust. Like it's
Yeah,
super
she's, like, twerking.
hyper-sexualized.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Dennis Quaid's character's like, "Oh my god, we love it, you're a star, everyone loves you." Like,
Yeah.
she because it's like and it's to that song, Pump It Up, where it's like, "Gotta pump it up, gotta pu" I'm telling you, I've listened to it every day since I watched that movie.
Well, I think of the, like, do you know them? No, but at the club, we're all, we're
Oh, "At the
all fans.
club, we all
We
fam."
fans.
Wait, why do you think of that?
'Cause that song is, like, playing in the background.
Oh, really? I didn't realize
That
that.
sound, I think so,
That
yeah.
makes sense. Oh, that's
Um,
funny.
One thing I thought about with that is, like, they wouldn't it was weird, the movie felt like you couldn't really tell what year it took place in, even though they had, like, cell phones, but
Yeah.
it felt like out of date, or it felt dated that they would even have this show still, like, who would
Yeah.
watch that, you know what I mean? Like, we
And that
don't
it would be
still
such a success.
yeah, we don't still do, like, fitness
It
shows.
kind of reminds me of have you ever seen Riverdale?
Mhm.
Where you're like, "Is this the" they're driving, like, 1950s cars, but they have laptops. And
Okay,
I
hear
feel
me
like a
out.
lot more people are doing
Obviously,
that now.
I think Riverdale obviously is, like, it's Riverdale, it's a shitty show, but one thing I will say, speaking because you were saying, like, Twin Peaks earlier, like, I think it's the closest we've ever gotten to, like, a to David Lynch, like, to understanding the mind of David Lynch, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Why do you say
I
that?
think they did a really good job of that. I think if the show had been good, like, if it had
Yeah.
been not bonkers and, like, an actual good, like, writing,
Yeah.
I think it could have been so good because I remember when it first came out, I was like, "Oh, the style, like,
It's
the
yeah.
aesthetic is so cool," and it is, like, the closest that we have gotten to recreating David
The
Lynch.
first season is good. You know,
The
the
first episode is
I
good.
think the first season when you find out, like, well, I got my mom to watch the whole first season, but yeah, I love that aesthetic, but it also,
Yeah.
like, I would say the substance it also reminds me of, Sex Education, where that whole first episode, I'm not kidding, I thought it was the 1980s, like, based on how
Well,
they're dressed
and
and
sex
stuff.
ed was like that was they purposefully made it so you don't really know
Yeah, but then someone
what
pulled
year
out a
it's
cell
supposed to
phone, I was like, "Whoa, Marty McFly, okay."
be. Yeah.
But I feel like a lot more, like, directors and stuff are doing that, where it's, like, almost like
Yeah.
they're the series takes place in the present, but they are setting it almost in their childhood aesthetic.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes I get a little I'm getting fatigue of, like, I'm getting, like, crazy movie fatigue. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
I sometimes I'm just like, I just want a simple plot like Anora.
yeah,
I don't want something that's, like, mind-bending, giving me, like, a panic attack or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I just sometimes want something that's not like that, where I have to really think and I'm like, "What's happening now?" Like, I don't get
yeah.
like, I don't know.
And I think, like, I like the experimentations in film and storytelling, but I think
Yeah,
sometimes
of course.
it's like a less is more thing where you don't have to be, like if you're trying to make a certain societal point or, like, commentary or whatever, I think sometimes, like, some subtlety goes a long way. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you have to trust that your audience isn't stupid. Like,
Yeah.
the people who are
And
watching the substance are not like, "Yeah, I'm just out here, like" I don't know. I was gonna say watching King of the Hill all the time, but I watch King of the Hill, so
yeah. Um, I do agree with you that it was beautifully shot, and I thought the plot was interesting, but I'm just gonna say by the end of the movie, like, I couldn't stand
The
it.
last few scenes, I was like, "This is too much," and I'm not a body horror it kind of reminded me of, like, a Fellini film, like, where it's just very, like, there's a lot of, like, blood squirting and
Yeah,
whatever.
it was a little bit like The Fly. Like, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
felt like I'm just like by the end of it, I couldn't wait for it to be over. And one thing I thought was interesting, I will say, just to go back to how it was shot, I thought the first scene was really striking. I really liked how they did the Hollywood star and how they showed
Oh,
time passing
yeah.
through that. Like, I thought that was really creative. So again, it was like beautiful. It was really interesting how it was shot. But I I do not understand how, like, something like, because everybody it was a huge deal that, like, a horror movie was nominated for Best Picture
Mhm.
because historically, like, the Oscars really ignore horror movies. Like,
Yeah.
they don't typically get recognized. So it was a pretty big deal that it's gotten so many nominations. But how, like, something like Midsummer or Hereditary got ignored and then this got
Nosferatu.
nominated, or Nosferatu, like, then this was the thing that got all
Yeah.
these nominations is kind of beyond me, because I'm also gonna tell you, like, so Demi Moore has won. I think she won a SAG award last
Mhm.
night as well. She has won. She's probably gonna win the Oscar. She's like won a lot of awards for this. After watching both The Substance and Anora, I don't even know why Demi Moore is like in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't
I
think she
really
should win for
don't.
this. I think she did a good job. But I feel like she wasn't
I
even in it that much. Like or like she was, but like
no.
it's interesting. However, I will say that someone was saying to me the other day that he was reading something. Chris was telling me that he was reading something about like if Mikey Madison
Someone said to
wins.
me,
What?
you're like, someone said to me, Chris was reading something.
um, I was reading over Chris's shoulder. No, I'm just kidding. That if Mikey Madison wins, and that's kind of like 2 years in a row that we're really like giving Best Actress awards. And I don't mean this to sound like crass or in a rude way, but it's just like when you're just like fucking a lot on screen. And I feel like
Who
sometimes
won last year?
Emma Stone for
Oh,
and sometimes like I
yeah.
see both sides of that argument where it's just like I think Mikey Madison outside of the sex did an amazing job. I actually didn't think Emma Stone should have won, but that's a conversation for a previous episode. Go listen to it.
I
But
thought, honestly, I didn't even really think of it as being like a super sexual movie. Like, I didn't really think of her as
interesting.
like having sex a lot in the movie. Emma Stone, obviously, yeah, but like Mikey Madison, I felt like her performance, to me, it was like her
Yeah.
acting was incredible. I didn't really think of it like that.
Yeah, I just don't want us to like get into and I say us as though I have any standing in the like voting of the Oscars or anyone cares. I don't want us to like get into some sort of like vein where it's like this like women are winning the Oscar because they have to be like hypersexualized.
But I don't think that's what's happening. I don't know. I've never like gotten that from that. What my argument to that is like what I think is happening now. If Demi Moore wins, and it kind of reminds me of like when Jamie Lee Curtis won for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once the other
Mm,
a couple years ago, like or last year, whatever. Um, is I feel like we're giving awards to people who are like maybe deserving of awards at one point, and it's like, oh, so like let's give it to them for this, and I'm
yeah.
like Jamie Lee Curtis should not have won that year. That was like
No, like
insane.
I thought she was fine in
Um,
that movie, but like I don't think yeah.
yeah, and then with this, like I Demi Moore, I think is a good actor, and I thought she was fine in this, but I didn't like. I was telling my mom because I watched that with her as well. Like I was like, I'm waiting for the performance. Like I'm waiting for the scene that's like supposedly Oscar winning because like I just
Yeah.
don't see it yet.
Yeah.
I'm curious what people think. If someone can point to me a scene where she really like was Oscar winning
Maybe it
actor
was
worthy,
the
like
hot dog fingers or they're going in her mouth. It's a
I
lot.
don't know. Like there's a lot of screaming involved, but that doesn't mean you should win an
Yeah.
Oscar.
No.
I guess I get frustrated because I'm like, people are like, oh, this is for all these horror movies that didn't get nominated. Like, and I'm like, this should not have been the movie that got all that.
And it's also like I find a difference between like horror and body horror. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I feel
Yeah.
like body horror is not really my type of genre. Like I don't want to see
No.
someone pulling their fingers. I don't want to see someone pulling Margaret Qualley out of her back, really.
I it was so gross. I couldn't stand like I just
Yeah.
it was a really hard watch for
Or
me.
as I feel like Nosferatu, I'm like, that's just horror, you know?
Yeah.
That's just
It was
good ass
it was
horror.
not grotesque. I guess it was a little. Nosferatu's pretty a hard watch for me too. It's pretty gross, but still, it's like beautiful, you
Yeah.
know.
But I would say like the gross parts, I would say there's less gross parts than
Oh yeah, but
the
for
sub,
me,
yeah.
I'm like
Oh, cause the rats.
grossed out easily.
You
So
would actually hate this. I got a sticker this weekend and I made it into a magnet and it says, "Please call me Rat. My father is Rathu."
what?
I made it into a
That's so,
magnet. It's on my fridge now.
I should name my child that
Rathu or Rat
Rat because his father's name
is
Rathiel.
Rathu. Yeah. It just really made me
Um,
laugh. I bought it for $1 at an antique store.
I mean that doesn't bother me because like I am a rat.
Okay.
I just don't like rats, but
I
I
just like
am.
imagined you coming over for the Oscars and like seeing that on the fridge and being like, "What is that, Alexa?"
Oh wait, is it a picture of an actual rat?
Yes, next to it.
Um, You might need to hide it then.
Okay. We'll see. But anyways, overall, so like I will say, so one of the things that the Substance is nominated for is best makeup and hairstyling, and based on the creature at the end, I'm like, yeah, they should win.
I would say so. I do think Nosferatu is up for that though.
Oh, really?
Which
Okay.
maybe it's best costume. It's like one of those, but
Yeah.
I
They should
it
have a
was
category of
grotesque.
like
That
best
last
accent. Ooh, I'll add it to the poppies.
best what?
Best accent.
Yeah. Um I will say that last like monster was
Yeah, that was a lot.
horrific.
It was a
But I
lot.
felt sad. It also like at the same time was making me sad.
They called it Eliza's
Sue,
there's yes.
Elizabeth.
Eliza
Yeah.
Sue something. They like combine the names.
Also, like, not to single out, hopefully none of our fans are named Sue, but like,
I
I was
was
like,
just about to say that.
she's in her 20s. Why is her name? Why did she choose the name Sue?
I think it's because so it's director and writer Coralie Farjeet. I think it's probably because she's an '80s kid, and she probably knew a lot of Sues. But I'm not out here like
Yeah.
at least make it Susan.
Also, as a Molly Elizabeth with a Z, I get really pissed off when people spell Elizabeth with
With
an
an
S.
S, yes.
It doesn't make sense.
It
That's
doesn't.
not correct.
It's like a snake saying the name. Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, if
Elizabeth.
it's pronounced Elizabeth, then there's a Z.
Yeah, put that Z in there.
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
No.
But anyways, so the third Oscar Best Picture nominee movie that I watched was The Nickel Boys. And what I have learned is that I cannot spell the word nickel to save my life.
Were you spelling it with an H by chance?
Where would the H go?
Okay, never mind. I was
No,
trying to like
I'm just curious.
I was trying to relate to you. Like instead of the K, there'd be an H. But I know that's not correct.
Okay.
I just was asking you how you spelled it.
No, I know that. I just was curious. No, I keep flipping the L and the E. It's tough. It's tough out here in these streets. But if you don't know, so Nickel Boys.
Where would the L go? Sorry. Anyway.
I'll wait.
I'll wait too.
Anyways, okay. So The Nickel Boys is based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel from Colson Whitehead, and it chronicles the friendship between two African-American men navigating the harrowing trials of reform school together in Florida. So it starts out, it's actually, the way it's shot is really interesting because it's from a first person point of view. And so what I mean by that is it's like almost as if the actor has a camera on his face. So you don't see his face. The first time you ever see his face is in like a reflection from a store window, and it takes you a second and you're like, "Oh my god, wait, that's him." That's what.
And so you never see the two boys like in the same shot, right?
The only time you do is, and this is like the shot that if you go to rent the movie, it's like the shot that's the clip, the whatever, like the screen grab, is when they're like almost looking up at like, I think it's like maybe like a theater type thing where like the ceiling is a mirror and you can see them and they're like walking up and they're looking at each other. That's the only time you see, because there's two boys that you see the like first person point of view from. So the first one, his name is Elwood, and the second one, his name is Turner. And so based on who you're looking at, like if you're seeing Turner, then you know you're Elwood. If you're seeing Elwood, then you know you're Turner. Which, I'll be honest, does get kind of confusing at certain points when they're not, like, in the same scene together. And I think it's very interesting, and I think it really plays into, the confusingness plays into, like, kind of a plot twist at the end that I won't get into. But I think it's also a really tough movie. So it takes place in like the 1960s, I believe, where it's, again, he's an African-American boy. I think he is maybe like 17, and he's supposed to be, he ends up in this like reform school because he's on his way to like this private school that he got like selected for. He doesn't have a way to get there, so he's like riding, and some guy's like, "Oh, like I'll give you a ride, like you can hitchhike with me." And he's like, "Sure," because it's the 1960s and nobody gives a fuck about that. But then the guy gets pulled over, and as it turns out, he's like stolen the car that they're in. So and then of course Elwood, the main character, gets like like wrapped up in that as well, so that's how he gets sent to the reform school. And it's just interesting because you just see like the differences in the two schools. So they have like a white reform school and they have a black reform school. And like when they and Elwood goes there with like these two white guys, and when they get out of the car and they go and like they run out and join their like white friends or whatever, and they were like, oh, is this where we get out? And the driver's like, no, yours is ahead. And it's just like very clearly like a different tone, like a different, as you can imagine, aura of racism to the other section. And I will say, so one of the characters, his name, the actor's name is Hamish Linklater, and he plays the priest in Midnight Mass.
Mhm.
And I was like, he came on screen, I was like, oh, I love him. And then I immediately regretted saying that because he ends up like being an awful, like he's like the headmaster of the school and he, kind of like beats the children, etc. But it goes to show like it just takes them through like kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a tough watch and it's a little bit confusing because sometimes it jumps back to like the 1970s when they're an adult, but you still can't see their face. But then sometimes it jumps to like 2004, and the only way you like really know that there's a difference is because like in the 1970s things look like the 70s, and in 2004 it's like there's a laptop in front of him.
Yeah.
But and I think like the whole thing is kind of maybe I want to like read more about it, but it's basically just like of having like your identity taken from you in this place where like Turner is someone who he's like he doesn't have any family. He doesn't have like a lawyer, he doesn't have anyone to reach out to, whereas Elwood's like, "Oh, my aunt or my grandma or whatever takes care of me." And she's gotten a lawyer and like someone's like at least looking out for me. Whereas, and you can tell that like his case was kind of the exception, not the rule to the type of boys who are there. And it's also just like, they show like they flash forward to the future where they find out that like all these news articles are coming out where they're finding like mass graves or just like unmarked graves of students who just died at the school in the 1960s because they were just like they would just tell their family like yeah they ran away, like there's no way to get out of there because it's just like you just don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And so I won't like go into like there's kind of a twist at the end that's really confusing that both Chris and I like had to look up to understand, but I can see why it got nominated for Best Picture because I think just like the artistic like decision to make it a first person point of view is really interesting when you think about the twist. And also I think it makes you like if you are a non-black viewer and you're watching it, I think it makes it feel the experience feels more real.
Yeah. That's
um
interesting.
yeah, which I think is a really interesting way. I don't think it'll win, but I'm like it seems like one of the like I'm like yeah, it makes sense that this was nominated.
I will say this is one of those years where I like truly do not know who is going to win.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of stuff about it where people are like, it's really hard to say right now.
Yeah, I feel like it's just
And I
been
won't
so
ask
back and
you
forth.
your thoughts because we're competing for a prize, but I'm
No.
curious.
I know Megan tried to ask me today and I was like, I ain't telling. And that was like right when we were having the conversation about like what awards.
Yeah, it's the best kept
So,
secret. Your
well, I
Oscars
think like
picks.
it kind of brings us into our next topic. Or do you have any more to say about Nickel Boys? I
Mm-mm.
haven't seen it yet. I'm really excited to
I
watch
recommend
it.
it, but it is, as always, kind of a tough watch for a movie
Yeah.
because it's about racism, and it's
Yeah.
sometimes tough to swallow. But I think it's good. I think it's interesting.
I think it's an important film. I um like the other movies, I think I'm because I think it just came out on streaming, so it's still like $20. I might wait until it goes
Yeah,
down a little and then watch it. But
makes sense.
um but yeah, I think that kind of takes us into our next topic of I think with like I said, this has been sort of like the first year since maybe like Parasite one that like no one's really sure, like everyone's kind of on their toes
Mm-hmm.
about like what it will win.
Yeah.
Because just depending on the award show, different movies have won. So, um, But I think it's interesting because I feel like I've not seen like it. I've said this before, but it's really I feel like Conclave has sort of been the
Mhm.
like I feel like it's mirroring art imitates life.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see
I
that.
think it's mirroring Conclave right now, where you're just like, who's it gonna be? Like, what's gonna
Yeah.
happen? It feels like people are sabotaging. Like, I don't know. I think, and I feel like something's gonna come out on top that's like random. Like Nickel Boys might
Yeah.
win. No, but
I don't know. We'll
I
see. I can see
I feel
that.
like
I think because
yeah,
we have such a also, I think the, like, movies that are nominated, it's such a variety, you know?
it is. It's the first time I feel like I was a little bit more excited about last year's batch than this year's.
Mhm.
I feel like we don't have I don't think it's as strong of a uh lineup this year personally. Um
Mm.
because again there's some that are nominated that I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like The Substance. I don't know. But
Mhm.
in some ways I do understand why it was, but anyway. But I think it's interesting like a lot of people have been talking about like I have actually not seen Oscars campaigning like Timothy Chalamet's in like
Yeah.
a while. Like
But
I like his is interesting.
it's interesting. I've been listening to the podcast Little Gold Men from Vanity Fair where they kind of like delve into
Yeah.
this, and they were saying Timothy Chalamet's campaigning is more for like the younger crowd. You know, like he hasn't been at a lot of the award shows to like either accept awards or like kind of like schmooze or whatever. And he hasn't done like the, I think, typical trajectory of campaigning, but he's done like a lot of like Gen Z millennial type stuff, which is
Yeah.
interesting to see how that goes for him.
Well, it's interesting for the Oscars because it's a board of probably old people,
Yeah.
right? Older people. Maybe it's I
Well,
don't
I
know,
think it's like
but
people in the industry, but yeah,
oh yeah. Well,
which
he
could be old
won his
people.
first like I think he won his first ever like major award last night. He won the SAG award for best actor. So again, it's just kind of all over the place, but he won for A Complete Unknown. And his speech was interesting. It kind of I don't want to say it was controversial because I don't really know why it would be, but well, I understand why it is, but he basically in his speech he kind of was just like, he said he wants to be one of the greats, like he said he wants to be like Viola Davis, and I thought that was
Mhm.
interesting. And like
Wait, I missed that. He said he wants to be like Viola Davis.
yeah,
Okay.
which that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, good job.
An icon, legend.
Yeah.
Um, but and he named like a few other actors, but he was kind of like, I wouldn't be lying if I said I essentially that because he's like, I want to be humble, but like I've you know, been working on this role since for like 5 years. So he was
Yeah.
basically saying, in some ways that he wants the recognition, that he like wants the award, not specifically that he wants the award, but
Oh, he definitely does. Like
he
I think we've
does.
talked about it. I
Yeah.
think about that story that people tell where it's like he was in high school and he was from New York City and they went on a field trip to Times Square and he asked his friends to pretend like he was famous and come up and like ask for his autograph. I'm like, he has wanted this. He wants the, and I understand. Like, I don't think there's any shame in that. Like, you've worked hard for it. This is your dream.
Yeah,
I don't think there's
totally.
anything wrong with that.
He's been really working hard to like master his craft.
Yeah.
I was actually going to say earlier when we were talking about that guy from Anora, he kind of reminded me of a mix of Timothy Chalamet and that kid from The Holdovers, the
Yes.
boy.
Yes.
I don't know why,
Absolutely.
but like he really reminded me of Timothy Chalamet a lot. I feel like he's the new
Yes.
Chalamet.
Absolutely. But also I was thinking about earlier, I was like, imagine like you've worked on this for 5 years, it's finally out, like your Oscar nominations are up, and you don't win. Like that is actually crushing because it's not guaranteed you're gonna get nominated for an Oscar again.
No, I just thought about so another movie I watched this weekend was a movie called Lee,
Oh yeah.
which is about it stars Kate Winslet and she plays this she was a photographer for Vogue, but she was a war photographer during World War II. And she captured some of the most like harrowing photos that you've probably seen. It's like she went through concentration camps and filmed like shot just like really intense photos. And
Mhm.
she's basically like she's a legend. She even shot, I had never heard of this, but she actually broke into Hitler's apartment and
Oh.
filmed in his bath or took a photo in his bathtub.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And they showed it in the
crazy.
movie. But she worked on this role for like I want to say it was like 8 years.
Mhm.
And I think she was nominated for a Golden Globe for it, but she didn't get an Oscar nomination. And like, that's fine. She wanted to tell the story. And I think it's a really important, it was a good movie. If you haven't seen it, like
Yeah,
I
I
suggest
wanted to
seeing
see
it.
it.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's like an Oscar worthy movie or anything, but it was an interesting story. And it was interesting to learn, especially as like, former reporters. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I really like when war movies focus on like the journalism aspect of it.
Yeah.
I find that to be kind of a unique.
Well, I'm curious, like, I feel like in Civil War,
Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst's character, whew, that's a hard one to say. Um, her name is Lee, and I thought it was like after
Oh
this famous
yeah.
photojournalist. Like she's a real person, right?
Lee, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be actually. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny that they're
I
both
thought
both
I was
named.
originally thought that like maybe like the movie Lee with Kate Winslet was like a prequel, and I was like, obviously that's not. I don't know where that line of thinking came from. They just have the same name.
Yeah. I was gonna say it takes place like way before, but then I was like, when does Civil War take place? I don't actually
I think
know.
like now.
Yeah, I guess now.
Yeah.
But not a specified time. Um, I was just gonna say, like, imagine being her and like she spent 8 years on that role. That it was kind of Oscar baity.
Yeah.
I can say like, but it didn't get nominated. Or I think about, do you remember that movie that came out a few years ago? It was called Boyhood, and it took place
Yeah.
over the span of like 12 years, and they actually shot it over the span of 12 years, like as this family, like as this boy grew up into like
Yes.
a teenager. And I was thinking, like, imagine, and I think it did get nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture, but I was thinking, like, imagine us spending all that time on this
I
damn
know.
movie and not winning. Like,
And I saw it. It was fine.
I didn't even see it. I didn't care.
It was one of those things that was like on HBO one day when I was flipping through channels and I'm just like, was it like whatever. It was fine. Like you're just like, wow, yeah, that boy really looks like himself. But yeah, I think like his Timothy Chalamet's campaign is interesting. Adrian Brody I think is definitely campaigning in his own like very classic way of like going to these award shows, like schmoozing with people, etc. It'll be very I think it is going to be down to Timothy Chalamet and Adrian Brody, and I think it'll be interesting to see who wins.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't know if Adrian Brody is like doing anything out of the ordinary though. I feel like that's just what everybody does if you're nominated for an Oscar.
I mean, not necessarily. Like these even like the smaller award shows, like some of them don't go to them, but he's been going to a lot of them. And I think he's just been doing like a lot of like events with people in
Yeah.
Hollywood type of thing.
Which you could say is kind of rare for him because I feel like he's a little bit on the private side.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I think just Timothy's is like a lot weirder. Like his is like
Yeah.
zany, you
I'm
know.
not down with his new like fashion choices with his little trucker hats and
It's
stuff.
weird because I used to consider him like kind of relatable and like cute and like, just
Yeah.
funny. And now I like just see him as kind of weird, you know?
Which makes sense because I feel like if you get like as famous as he is, like that young, like it's kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio, where I'm like, he's
Yeah.
weird. Let's be
Oh
honest, he
yeah.
seems like he's weird, and it's probably because he became famous at like 17 years old. And in a
Yeah,
different
no,
way
it's
than
true.
like maybe the Jonas Brothers or whatever did. Like it's like a different form of fame. It's kind of weird. But I also love there's like this thing where Timothy Chalamet is doing an interview, he's wearing big pants and he's like, I know, like these look like my legs, but they're not, and he pulls the pants like so they're like you can see his leg, and his leg is literally like the size of my finger, and I love that self-awareness. And also I meant to text you and ask you, what did you think about him and Kylie Jenner together at was it the SAG, no, not the SAG Awards.
No, it was like I want to say it was like the Berlin Award. It was something
Yeah,
random. Like it was like the Berlin Awards or something.
I noticed like so she didn't walk the red carpet with him, and people were like saying like, oh, to give him his moment or whatever, which is fine. I'm curious if she'll go to the Oscars with him, but like the way
I
that
think
they were acting was so weird, where it seemed like he almost like did not give a fuck she was there. Like she was like touching his
so.
leg and like she was like grabbing his cheeks like a mom or something.
They give like Anora, like what's her name, Annie and Yvonne vibes. Like,
Yes.
like almost, you know what, like to me, because I mean, she's a mom of two and I'll just be honest, she's had like a lot of work done.
Yeah.
And I think she looks good right now, like I do, but she looks like she's in her, she looks like his mother, to be
Oh yeah.
honest.
Like they just
And I think
again, I'm
that's,
just curious about like the chemistry. I'm like, what's going on there?
but I just, You know what though? I don't hate them together because I do think like they're not like in your face or anything. The only time I see them together is when they're at award shows, and I kind of love that. Like they're not.
Yeah.
They seem to be pretty private otherwise. It's not like they never post each other or anything. So
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
interesting. That's what makes me sort of feel like it's all for show. So I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they're an interesting couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on to like non-Oscars things. Some I guess like what's the housekeeping from
Yeah.
last week is we never announced who won from our Super Bowl episode of who won the movie assignments. And drumroll.
Well, wait, it was between
Oh, sorry.
For those who didn't see.
Retract that drum. Bring that drum roll back in.
Pause. It was we had friends of the pod, Chris, our fiance Chris.
Our fiance Chris, yeah.
the pod's fiance Chris.
Yeah.
And Ty basically give us the option. We had everybody vote between Ty's recommendation of Tammy and the T-Rex and Chris's recommendation, City of God.
Mm-hmm.
Was that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
And drum roll, the winner was Tammy and the T-Rex.
Woo!
Big shocker there. Actually, it was a really tight race, I will say.
Yeah, I think you said friend of the pod, Matt Chambers, was like, he said that we should watch Tammy and the T-Rex, and I was like, well, there we go. That's the main vote we need.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and it wasn't winning at first, actually. There were a lot of people who said City of God.
Interesting.
But then I think we had some more people come in. Maybe Ty did some dirty campaigning.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just kidding. But
yeah, so we'll watch that for what, next week?
Yeah, we'll watch it before next week.
Yeah. I've got to find out where to watch it, but I'll be watching.
I specifically remember him saying it was on like Paramount Plus or something, because I remember me going, damn it, because I was hoping it wasn't available. Oh, it's on Peacock.
Oh, okay. I always get the two confused. You know what pisses me off? Bless you. Bless you. Take a minute. Okay.
Yes.
You know what pisses me off is that Paramount Plus and Prime, their little logos look so similar. That's why when we went to go look up The Wicker Man, and you kept telling me it was on Paramount Plus or something, and I just was looking on Prime, I was like, what?
I was like watching one of my parents like type something in, because I was like, it's right there. It's Paramount Plus.
It happens to me like every day. They look the same. Plus. Their branding, their brand teams need to talk, okay? Because it's too much. But anyway, so we'll give that a watch. Oh, but I also wanted to mention before we get into our next topic, very quickly, I did watch another Oscar-nominated film. It's, I think, nominated for Best Animated Film. And it's a movie called Flow.
Yeah.
How did you know that was what I watched?
I just knew.
Oh, wait, we have a shared note.
No, I didn't. I didn't see that.
And
I knew because it's on Max right now, so I figured that was what you watched.
I watched it like last night and part of today. It's like an hour long, and it's about a cat that like its home gets destroyed in a flood, and it has to like learn kind of how to like survive the flood with like these different animals. And it's just like there's no speaking in it because they're animals. But they kind of like communicate in a way that's like a little bit human-like. Like sometimes they'll be like gesturing to things where I'm like, Poe would never, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm just like, the animation is beautiful. It has beautiful like water animation, which I know it's like water and fire, I think, are really hard to animate.
Yeah.
And just like the little cat, like it'll just be like floating along. I'm just like, meow.
No.
And like, I'm not kidding. There was
make me sad.
I have like 5 minutes left of it. There was a scene like heart-wrenching where I was like, I'm gonna be late to the Zoom call because I need to find out what happens to this capybara. You know?
Not the capybara.
Yeah. And there's like, they have this dog, it's like a golden retriever. It's very cute. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, apparently they used actual animal voices or animal sound. Like, they used actual animals.
Animal commentary.
That's why they make like such realistic sounds. But there was something specific about the capybara. Like maybe they weren't able to use one.
That makes sense.
I don't remember now. It was something about the capybara, but
I really liked it. I think if you're looking for just like a heartwarming like animated thing about pets, like not pets but animals, like It was really nice. The cat is really sweet, and I really liked it. I hope it wins. I think it was made by a Latvian film crew.
Oh,
That's all I know about
I
it.
think I haven't. Oh, you know what it's up against though?
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I can't support it. It's
What?
up against Wallace and Gromit. I love Wallace and Gromit,
I
and I
do
want it to
too.
win every award.
I really liked Wallace and Gromit, but this movie was just so visually striking.
Yeah, I feel
It's
like that was
tough.
like a beautiful movie. Wallace and Gromit is just like
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it
heartwarming.
like beautiful. It's Wallace and Gromit,
You
you
don't
know?
think that
It is
little
beautiful, but
bald-headed man is beautiful?
yeah, it's not like emotionally
Yeah,
touching or
I think the
anything.
penguin is kind of beautiful.
He is. No, Feathers McGraw.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, so I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah,
But
that's
okay.
cool.
So you wanted to talk about TikTok. Tick tock on the clock, the
I
party.
don't want to talk about TikTok. I feel like we needed a better transition into that. But I just want to talk about this new trend that's going on right now that has kind of like it's every day.
Okay.
So basically there's this trend on TikTok where it's now this like it's like a point of view thing. It's like a virtual reality point of view. So it's like you wake up, it's like in uh waking up during the Black Plague. And it's
Oh,
literally you waking up. It's like your hands and you're waking up in this world.
never mind. That sounds really cool.
It's like stupid. It's AI, but
Yeah.
every single one I'm locked in. Like every time it comes up,
What's your favorite one?
and it's a new one every day. Like I died at the Black Plague, but then I woke up in as like a mermaid princess in the next one,
Is it like a
which was
specific
really cool.
account?
There's like multiple accounts. I don't know. The crazy one, I woke up during the dancing plague. Have you heard of the dancing plague?
Yes, I have heard of that.
I didn't really know much about it. It was kind of wild.
It
It
once
was
again, like I spent my middle school looking up Tudor witch burnings. I have heard of the
I
dancing
figured you
plague.
knew about this one. It was like
It
a
is,
mass hysteria
yeah, like
of
they
just
couldn't stop dancing for like they would die from dancing.
what do you think it was? Do you think it was I've heard theories that it was like a fungus, but I think if they were actually sick, they wouldn't be able to dance. So I think maybe it was like some weird like
I could see it being a
stress
fungus because
induced thing.
you can have a fungus and it not make you ill. It just makes you like crazy.
But I think it was more like a psychosis thing. Like I feel like people were really stressed and like it was making everybody like psychotic basically.
Yeah, I think so. I could see that.
So, but
What
this
happened in the
morning
dancing plague one?
I was not dancing. I woke up and there were people dancing and then maybe I did dance. I know I died. The plague one was really awful because or the Black Plague was awful because there were rats in the street and that bothered me.
Thought you were gonna say because of the
Um
pustules.
but this morning I woke up as I was Christine from Phantom of the Opera.
Oh wow! I
That
feel
was
like you
pretty
would
cool.
love that.
It was my dream. I'm not kidding. It was literally like my middle school dream coming to
That would
life.
be a really good costume for you and Rathu.
But would he be the Phantom or would he be Raoul?
I guess that's up to him, but I mean, I feel like
The Phantom.
the Phantom's more recognizable. You know,
Yeah, I don't think many people are going to recognize Raoul.
would you wear a
But
brunette wig? I think you pull it off. I love the brunette on you.
thank you. Think of me.
Think of me fondly with
I was on stage. People were throwing flowers at me. I went
wow.
through the tunnels with the Phantom.
Do you think we're like? Do you think sometimes when I hear these things, it does feel like we're in a dystopian reality, though?
Yeah, I actually kind of spiraled today because I heard something that I won't get into, but I heard something that like really upset me, and I'm just like, what's happening? Where are we?
Interesting. I'll be texting you about it after. But if I wanted to
Yeah.
find this TikTok trend, let's say I was interested in it, what would I search?
Uh, hold on. Let me just pull it up really quick. You probably could hear little.
What was that? What was that?
Also,
Oh.
it was a White Lotus video. All I get now are point of views or White Lotus theory videos or severance theory videos. POV. You wake up. The first one that came up was point of view, you wake up as a man. Oh, shoot. It was like point of view. Stop. Point of view, you wake up as a man living in Jerusalem, year 30 CE.
That is actually, you know what? Sometimes I think about this because I've like read books that take place like in Jerusalem back in like Jerusalem times, you know? And it's like I've also
Yeah.
read books from like the Regency era and then like from Tudor era. And that like Regency Tudor England seems old, right? But then when you look up like when like people in the Bible and stuff are supposed to live, you're like, wow, that is crazy, crazy old. And then you read books about like Greek mythology and you think about the fact that people were living way back then. Like, I'm not kidding. This is where I spiral about at night, where it's just like
Yeah.
how old things are. It's like that is really hard for my mind to comprehend of just like how old time is.
I know. It really freaks me out.
And I'm just like, they've been living without Advil for thousands of years.
Can you imagine? But I think we were built differently.
Yeah.
But
stronger, better, faster, harder. That's what they were doing.
One time, there's one that's you wake up as Shrek. One time I woke up as I woke up in the North Pole and I was an elf.
I thought you were gonna say the North Sea. I would be interested in that one as well.
I'd be vomiting. Oh no, there's one you wake up as Anne Frank in 1944. Okay, I'm getting out of here. That's super awful.
Interesting. Ooh, they should do one like you wake up in a season of American Horror Story. You would love that.
Oh, I would love that. Okay, which one would you put yourself in? I think we've definitely asked ourselves this.
The first season, the only one I liked. I wouldn't put myself in Coven because I would be sitting around and I'd just be like, y'all are really bad actors.
Yeah, you guys are cringe.
Yeah.
I would put myself in. I would see Asylum's my favorite, but I'm not going to put myself in Asylum.
Yeah.
I put myself in Freak Show.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but I love that for you.
It's such a vibe. I think you should watch that one. Give it another shot.
Maybe I have an idea for this next fall for our assignments.
No more of what's his face shows. Mike, whatever. Michael Flanagan or whatever.
You can just call him Mike.
Oh, Mike Flanagan.
Michael Flanagan.
It's gonna be one of those.
Who knows?
It was
Midnight Mass. You said you were interested in it.
If I watch Midnight Mass, you have to watch another American Horror Story season.
Okay, I watched 4 of them. I'm not the one. I don't struggle. I don't struggle with the assignments. I'm like you. I'm like, this is for Molly.
I would only give Midnight Mass a shot because I've actually considered watching it.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite ones in terms of there are like scenes with it that stick with me, but it is like it's one of those things you have to stick with. But we'll return to this in the fall.
You might not have to assign me one. I might be watching it on my own because he's coming out with a Carrie show.
Oh yeah, I do want to see that.
Anyway, I would watch that on my own.
Okay. But speaking of, well, I don't want to say horror, but like you watch the Gabby Petito doc.
Our transitions are horrific.
You did a really good one. I can't be trusted.
No, it's fine. It's it's not okay. So a new documentary about Gabby Petito and the Gabby Petito case just came out on Netflix.
I need a refresher on who she is and what happened. Like I remember like her name and stuff, but it feels so long ago.
Well, it felt like it was such a niche time in history almost. Like I think it happened in 2021, which seems like a long time ago when you say it like that.
2021, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that long ago.
That's crazy.
But basically, Gabby Petito was this, I don't even know how old she was, maybe like 24. She was a YouTuber. She was a vlogger. She was like basically trying to be a van life vlogger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so she went on a road trip with her boyfriend at the time, Brian Laundrie. I always think it's Brian Landry, but it's apparently Brian Laundrie. And they were seemingly like this really happy couple because again, like they had this vlog and she captured a lot of content of them on this, they were going through, it was just them living their van life, like going through like Arizona and stuff. I don't know.
Very Scooby-Doo.
And but they had a very toxic relationship and long story short, she went missing.
Oh yeah.
And people were and what was kind of unique about this story was like because this was sort of when like you really saw the power of social media,
Mhm.
because basically like TikTok was like a huge help in like cracking the case. They were
Really?
like, so many people were like really just tuned into the story and were like trying to solve what happened.
Mm.
And so she went missing, and she was missing for days. Her family was like, okay, we haven't heard from her. Brian showed up back at his house with the van. So that at that point on, it was like,
Yeah.
obviously he was home, you know, something had happened to her because he came back without her. And he was living with his parents. He was hiding at his parents' house. His parents wouldn't talk.
Mm.
And then uh, he went like missing. He somehow snuck out in between all of the chaos at the house. Like there was a ton of cameras and like people
Yeah.
outside, like tell us where Gabby is. And he somehow snuck out and basically killed himself and admitted that he killed her. But what was crazy was, a couple things I'll say about this. And because I that was just like a really quick like run through. I will say it's the perfect story for a documentary
Mhm.
because she was a YouTuber, so she had a ton of content
Oh,
that they could
yeah.
use for this documentary. So like visually, I would just say it's like a very, like, I can see why they made a documentary about it, obviously. Plus just a gripping story. But it was honestly a really well done documentary because I was hesitant at first. I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're like," it was just such an upsetting story that
Mhm.
I was kind of like, "Oh, they're making a Netflix." Like imagine being the parents and like turning on Netflix like, "Okay, let's like our
Yeah.
lives are really sad. Like let's go on Netflix and
Yeah.
get away for a while." And it's just like Gabby Petito documentary right there. But they interviewed the parents, and they were
Yeah.
very much involved in the
Well, I
documentary, and
imagine
they
it's
interviewed.
something like when people do that, usually it's kind of like a we don't want to see this happen to someone else, like we want people to know the truth type of thing.
Well, because a huge part of the story was like domestic violence.
Mhm.
Because it really showed like the warning signs. And of course, like she didn't know because she
Mhm.
was, you know, she was really young. She didn't have a chance to like know what the warning signs were. But he was very, um, it was a very toxic relationship. And he became really controlling. He like isolated her from everybody
Mhm.
because she ended up moving in with him and his family in Florida. And so like her friends, like her family didn't see her for a while, and then she went on this road trip with him. And they were gone for like days, and they even got pulled over. I don't know if you remember this aspect of the story, but they got pulled over by the police
Yeah.
because of a call that somebody had seen him hitting her. And it was weird because somebody called and said they saw him hitting her, but then when they pulled them over, she was very upset. She was clearly like in distress, and it was
Mhm.
really upsetting to see. It's like the body cam footage. I can't even imagine how this police officer feels now because he's probably just like, I'm sure he feels somewhat like responsible.
Yeah.
Um, because basically they pulled them over, and it became clear they both admitted that she was hitting him, which in any domestic violence like situation, if somebody's hitting somebody, like they immediately get arrested. So it
Mhm.
like she would have gotten arrested. And they ended up just like having the two of them like separate for the night, and
Mhm.
they drove him to a hotel while she stayed in the van, which
Oh.
the van was under her name, so they kind of had to do that. But I still was like, I just can't imagine at 24 years old or whatever, me being okay with just like staying in a van by myself. Like I would have been
Yeah.
so scared.
I guess if it's like if you're seeing it as your home, then maybe it's not.
Yeah, but she kind of didn't know where to go. Like, I don't know. And of course they ended up back together that night. And then
Yeah.
after that, I think is shortly after is when her disappearance.
Yeah.
And
And that's
he killed her. It was interesting because in his note, he this I didn't know this until the documentary. So they found his remains in like a marsh, basically, I think, at a swamp
okay.
or something. And they had been like, it was literally just like his bones, and
Mhm.
um but they found a note in his stuff, and this was like so mind-boggling to me. He killed himself, right? So you'd
Mhm.
think like this would have been the time for him to say like that he did it,
Mhm.
like that like why he did it and just like admit to it. That would be maybe like, okay, you're going anyway. Like why not
Yeah.
just say his story that he writes is that she tripped and fell and hit her head, and in her last breath begged him to put her out of her misery. So he did.
Tripped
And
and
I was like,
fell and hit
what?
her head. Very clearly sounds like he pushed her.
Yeah, it was like she's like she fell or something, and like she was like there was like blood, and she like couldn't, and she was like crying, and she was in pain, and she asked him to put her out of her misery, so he did. I'm like, what? You would have called if it were anybody else.
Yeah.
Like anybody would have just like called the police. Like, what are you
It's
talking
very
about?
clearly a lie. And also, like, if that was
Yeah,
true, like, I don't know, maybe he wouldn't be. I don't know. Maybe he would have acted differently, but I feel like it's very clearly a
he wouldn't
lie because
run.
he
Yeah.
knows he killed her.
What's wild to me though is like that the parents are still in no way like they're not in trouble at all. And I find that interesting because they
His
clearly
parents?
hid him.
Hmm.
Um, and they're I don't know. I think his parents are just as evil as him.
Really? Interesting. Why do you
Yeah,
say that?
there's a lot more to it, but like in the documentary they detail like they literally hid him. They refused to speak to police, which they have the right to do, but um they they knew what happened. Like he was living in their house and
Yeah.
they got a lawyer. They had already gotten a lawyer by the time the police showed up to their house. So they obviously knew what he did.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
That is crazy. And it is one of those things, like, I forget the name of the show, but I watched this show one time where it was kind of like the characters are in these like moral dilemmas where it's like, what would you do if it's your child who's done something
Yeah,
horrible? And the premise of the show, like, one of the episodes was basically like, you know that your kid is a sociopath and you see them like journaling about how maybe they're gonna like shoot up a school, but they aren't really doing it. But it's also like your kid. So you don't wanna like report, like, see them get arrested, but you're also just like, then he eventually does shoot up a school and people are like, well, why didn't you say anything? You know?
right. And parents now are actually getting arrested for that. So I think if
Yeah.
anything, I'd be like, well, I don't want to like be, and it is hard. It's because I was watching it with Matthew and we were talking about that. Like literally, what would you do in that situation? But I think I would really, I mean, there's something so sick about to me that like the parents know and that like Gabby's parents were like sick with worry and had no idea where she was and you had answers and you weren't giving it to them,
Yeah.
Like there's just something.
I think it's tough though because, and I'm not giving excuses. I think what they did was wrong, but it's tough because like neither of us have children, so I think sometimes that like biological like innate desire to protect your child really just like takes over. But also, it's I don't know if that's like a good thing sometimes.
Well, wouldn't you be scared if that was your kid? Like I'd almost be like, I don't like I'm freaked out that you're my son. Like I don't think I don't because it was very clear through the documentary because like Gabby, they also showed text between people. So like they showed text between Gabby and Brian and Gabby and her mom where she would say like I think the mom hates me, like Brian's mom. And so it
Hmm.
was very clearly like I got the sense that he was very much like a mama's boy and that she
Hmm.
like hated, anybody. So like
Oh,
I
then
don't
that
think I
makes
would have a
sense.
son that would kill his girlfriend, hopefully.
It gives me like,
Um
from what you're describing, gives me very like Norman Bates vibes. You know?
Yeah, and I don't really know because again, they don't want to interview the parents, obviously. So like I don't
Yeah.
really know what his parents are like. But I just think like I see what you're saying. I do like it would be a really like I don't know what I would do, but I also don't think I would be in that situation where like if my son killed his girlfriend, I think I'd
Yeah.
be like it'd be really hard for me to defend that.
No, yeah. Oh, same. Like I think I would be like, "Hey, you've got to like face what you've done." But I think
Yeah.
also like it's easy to say that not having faced that. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like again, I don't think what they
But
did is right, but I like can see how like they're in a difficult situation, you know?
I think there's like I remember have you heard of the show Your Honor?
Mm-mm.
It has Bryan Cranston in it. It's really, really good. But he plays a judge, and his son, like, long story short, in the beginning, this happens in the first episode, so it's not a spoiler, but like his son basically accidentally hits and kills this kid in his car. He's having like an asthma attack, and he drops his inhaler, and he's freaking out, and while he's trying to reach for it, he accidentally like hits a kid on a bike and kills him. And he, in like kind of just the moment, like drives away, which is a hit and run, and it's an accident, like it's a total accident, but like obviously he's gonna like get in trouble, and his dad kind of, and he's a judge, so his dad kind of like doesn't know what to do, and like in that kind of situation, also you find out that he hit like the son of a mafia leader, so like that turns
Oh.
into a whole other thing. But in that kind of situation, I like would get it, because I also would ask, like, what would I do in that situation? It like wasn't his fault, and it was
Yeah.
it was an accident. But like with this, I'm like, he's a murderer, you know?
Yeah. And I
And so it'd
think it
be like, I'd
also would
almost
be
be
a hard
scared.
reckoning to be like, oh, I've raised a son who has not only murdered someone, but also before that, like, is clearly being like a domestic violent person. It
Right.
makes me think of, not to bring it back to this like eye roll of It Ends With Us, but I always think of like in that situation where Blake Lively's character, where her sister, or not her sister, the sister of her husband who is abusive, like they know that he's abusive and they're just kind of like, you shouldn't be with him, but also he's my brother. And it's such an interesting dynamic because you're
Yeah.
kind of like, I judge them a little bit for it, but I guess you're also just like, I mean, yeah, it's your brother.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex situation, no doubt. But I just think it's, I was also kind of laughing because I was like, not laughing, but I was thinking like, what do they talk about in that house? Because it was
Yeah.
just the three of them in that house while people are like swarming their house, yelling things. I'm like, are they just like watching TV? Like, what are they talking about
I
right
imagine
now?
it's a lot of like silent like sighs or just like
Yeah.
things muttered under your breath type of thing.
Like, so what do you want for dinner?
Yeah. Just like, oh, they'll leave eventually, like something like that. That's what I would imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll watch it.
Um,
I'll give it a stream.
it's a tough watch because you feel so bad for the parents.
Yeah.
And they don't cry almost the whole time, except for when they talk about the day that they realize she's truly missing, and then they get
Yeah.
emotional. Which I
That
can't
would
even
be, I
imagine like
can't
how
imagine.
awful and scary that was. So it's just, it's very, but again, it's a really important documentary too, because it does show the signs. Like, I hope people who are in those kind of relationships watch that and can see like, oh my gosh, that's my relationship, because you wouldn't notice it. Like, it'd
Yeah.
be hard to, or it'd be easy to overlook it as
Yeah.
just like, as making excuses, because she makes a lot of excuses for him. Like, he's very he makes her feel guilty a lot, and it's just an overall just really toxic
Yeah.
relationship.
Well, it's kind of like with that whole Brianna chicken fry thing where it's just like when you're in it, you don't see it. It's but like everyone
Yeah.
else outside can probably see it. But when it's
Yeah.
like you're clouded by emotions and it's people always say like, "Well, why didn't you leave?" And it's like, "Well, there's a lot of things going on and like you're
Not
looking
that
at him
easy.
being bad, but
Yeah.
you haven't seen him like when he's like being great and it feels like it's like a high type of thing." But
Yeah. Yeah,
interesting.
and it also details, because obviously there's the whole like missing white woman aspect of like,
Yeah.
this story got sensationalized.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, a lot of like indigenous women who go missing, or black women who are missing or killed, and there's just like no story behind, like it
Right.
doesn't get any attention. And they actually detail that Gabby's parent, because there was like a lot of kind of controversy over that, of like, why is this getting so much attention? And they were able to kind of figure out what happened through like the social media and through like just all the news.
Yeah.
And so Gabby Petito's parents actually like have done a lot of work since then, like trying to basically fix that. And
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Um, it's a good documentary though. I think it's important. It surprised me like how, and I had forgotten too, just like how crazy of a story that was. And then it just
Yeah.
kind of felt like,
Like it just fell off.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, interesting. I think like so for our last topic today, I just want to talk about a show that's been on the docket for a while, and it's a show called Rivals. I believe it's on Paramount Plus. It's like a British show. It stars David Tennant and a bunch of British actors, and I really want you to watch it, Molly, because I think you will enjoy it because it's basically like they're talking about like David Tennant is the owner of this like public network broadcasting company, and he brings on like a BBC journalist or whatever whose name is Declan to like he does this talk show that's kind of like controversial, and it's the 1980s and they're in these beautiful like English countryside homes, and it's also like it's super sexualized but like in a funny like very British witty way, and it's
Mhm.
just really interesting because I don't know, I think it's I never thought I like it's hard for me to sometimes conceptualize like British television and the fact that like oh it's like was made over there and then it's like streamed over here, but especially like in the
Yeah.
80s. And so eventually and it's like all these tensions are building, and I just think it's like very funny and it's interesting. And I think I just don't know why people aren't talking about it more because it's also beautifully shot. Like it's an amazing show. Like I plowed through it. I think David Tennant does a really good job as like a and the thing is, it's one of those shows that's kind of like Succession, where it's like no one's an actually good character except for maybe like one person. Um,
Yeah.
and everyone who you think, like, you start out thinking, like, oh, they're probably like a good person, someone I can root for. And then you learn, like, oh, maybe they're not. They're probably like cheating on their wife or doing whatever. And it's also like interesting because it's about like class and race dynamics. So, like, there's this woman that comes in, and her name is Cameron Campbell, I think, and she is a black woman in the 1980s who's like running this television station, and that's one of the things that like kind of gets brought up a lot, where people don't believe that she's doing it because one, she's a woman, and two, she's black. And it's just, it is so well done. Like, I just am shocked that people are not talking about it more. Like, I would love for you to watch like an episode or two and give me your thoughts, because I think like from a broadcast journalism perspective, you would find it really interesting. But I also think it's like kind of funny, and each episode like leaves you on your like there's like a cliffhanger. There's a huge cliffhanger at the end of the season, and there's also like really lovely relationships between the characters. Like, again, all of the characters are doing some kind of like morally ambiguous things, but for example, there's one character where she is the wife of a man who's like a news anchor, and it's like he never pays attention to her. She's a like romance novelist or whatever, and she ends up like having this whole moral dilemma where she wants to have a affair with this guy that she really likes. And spoiler, like, she ends up doing it. I mean, they make it like that's a very easy to predict that they are going to get together. And it's really beautiful because it's like an older woman and like an older man in their like 40s or 50s. And it's like they're making each other feel really like beautiful and seen again. And it's just, I don't know. I really loved it. I just cannot like explain it. I don't think I'm explaining it well enough. I'm really like,
Oh, yeah, I get it.
it just was really
It
good.
sounds good. Yeah. I love David Tennant. I think he is super talented and really funny. Also, he's like 53 and you would never know because he has the
No.
body of like a young boy.
Yeah.
But he hosted the BAFTAs recently and he's just like so funny. I love him.
He is. He's very like
Um,
charming and lovely. And like this is the first time I've seen him in a role where I'm kind of like, wow, like first of all, he's in a role where he's not meant to be sexy, but he's like doing like sexual things, and I've never seen him, I don't think, like that. And two,
yeah.
like where he's kind of a bad guy, and not like bad like in Harry Potter he's a bad guy, but like in actual real life like bad guy, or in Good Omens where he's like a demon, he's a real
Yeah.
bad guy, you know.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question about like why it's not maybe as popular yet, like I think, sometimes it's on Netflix, you said?
No, I think it's on Peacock, I think.
Okay.
Maybe, or Paramount
Well,
Plus. I don't
yeah,
know.
I think like sometimes just unfortunately British shows don't
Hulu.
always.
It's on Hulu, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think sometimes British shows just don't always, unfortunately, like sometimes
Yeah.
they land and sometimes they just don't. Like they don't,
Yeah.
but I don't really know why.
But this one isn't even like, it's not shot like a British show, you know? Like it feels like an
Yeah.
American show that takes place in Britain.
But isn't it weird when you think about it? Like what made like Downton Abbey have such a like stick so much, but then like
Mm.
other shows not, you
I
know?
think the production value, like if you look at other like period piece
Yeah.
shows that come out of the UK, like a lot of them maybe have like a lower production value, whereas like Downton Abbey feels like you're watching a movie that's a show a lot of the
Yeah, for
times.
sure. I mean, it was essentially a soap opera though.
Yeah. I didn't even
But
watch the
I
newest
find like
movies.
the low I like love like Britbox. I find like the
Oh,
lower
yeah.
quality ones like very comforting.
I do too. There's something I just really I love British television. I've like as you can probably guess, I've been obsessed with it since I was a child, and like I'll watch as time goes by anytime, you know?
Yeah. Do you have Britbox?
No, I've been thinking about it, but I also have so many streaming services
I think
that
you would really benefit from BritBox.
I do too. I'm gonna see what their subscriptions are. Also, BritBox, if you're listening, you can just gift me a subscription. Us. Yeah, I'll talk about your shows all day.
Yeah, we'll read ads. Like, tell us what you want us to say.
I'll do it in a British accent. That was bad. That was really bad, isn't it?
Maybe
they were listening to this and they immediately closed
they were like,
out.
"Oh yeah, we're going for." Oh.
Ooh, never mind. She's offended our whole culture. But yeah, I just like if anyone's looking for like, oh, maybe like I need a new show to watch and you don't know what to watch Rivals. I'm telling you, it is very good.
Why does it seem like one of those shows like titles that it's like Rivals UK? You know, like they'll make a US version later, Rivals US. Like it just has that title, you know.
And it makes me mad because they did that with Ghosts, and I really wanted like that would have been in a movie or like an assignment for you. I think you would have really loved Ghosts, but the British version, the American version pisses me off because it's the exact same thing, but it's American, so like the jokes don't land as well, and it just feels kind of stupid. But when it's British, for some reason, I'm like, this works.
Well, that's why it was really tough for like The Office to kind of get off its feet. If that, I don't know if that's the term, but because the British Office, the American Office, literally its like pilot episode was like word for word the same as the UK one, and I think audiences kind of were like not feeling it, like because it's very deadpan.
Yeah,
and we didn't really have that yet, you know, like it was very British, but it wasn't like. It didn't really make sense for the US yet, and then it kind of like took off.
Yeah.
Became a thing.
But whoa.
What?
Something loud just came through. But anyways.
Okay, it was probably me sniffing.
No. Don't be rude. It sounded like a spirit. Anyways.
What?
It's fine. Everything's
like
fine.
Like what?
It was just like at the camera's like
Okay, it was literally me sniffing.
No, it wasn't. It was like you moving something. Right now. Anyways. I think that's all we have for you this week. Like I said at the top of the hour, multiple hours ago, we're going to be doing the Poppies, so please vote for your favorite movie in our categories that we have. It'll be on Instagram at Poppin Podcast. Follow us. Also like, subscribe, rate, review, share it with your friends. Anything helps.
I'm really scared a spirit is about to like walk behind me right now on this camera.
Hopefully not. But if it does, we'll let you know. If you like, subscribe, rate, and review.
Yeah. This is it'll be
Paranormal Activity podcast edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind getting dragged down the stairs for a couple thousand viewers.
Wow. Interesting. Good to know about you.
No, I'm scared. I'm like actually really freaked out now.
No, I'm gonna leave. Okay. You'll be okay. Okay. Anyways, next time we'll be talking about the Oscars.
Yay!
Yay! So tune in next week and we'll see you next time. Bye.